Today, I'm going to attempt to do something pretty challenging, which is I want to try to combine David Deutsch's chapter of the evolution of culture and apply it to Tesla and business and investing. The evolution of culture, in my view, is the most important factor, at least today, in investing, because, like Elon Musk said, it is the continuous adaptation, the ability to innovate, this pace of innovation, which fundamentally defines the competitiveness of a company. So all the principles that we follow, the innovation, the innovator's dilemma, the innovation stack, 0 to 1, all these concepts that fundamentally are underlying our investment thesis, they depend on the evolution of culture. That's why I think this is one of the big ones, the kind of episode where if I'm able to formulate this, then I think I'm also going to have a lot of potential to make money, and the other way around. So the mission of Orange Capital Partners is to generate wealth by investing in fundamentally new concepts and engineering practices with large impact. In order to achieve this, we need to understand culture, because culture is fundamentally part of those new concepts and engineering practices. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's December 12th, 2020. This is Krim Delko. Today is Saturday. There's no update. So we'll jump right into it. We are talking about the evolution of culture. Deutsch talks about memes. Memes are ideas that cause behavior, which is actually what culture is. Culture is the thing that causes behavior. In our particular case, we're talking about people. So the culture within an organization is the thing that causes people to behave in a certain way. And now we're going to dissect that a little bit more using Deutsch's argumentation. So Deutsch uses memes, and I just don't want to go too deep into that. Meme is something that I think originates with Richard Dawkins and goes all the way back to the idea that we have something like idea that acts like a gene, in a sense that it replicates itself, it proliferates itself through a bunch of how should I say? It just proliferates, and the most important thing about the meme is that it has the ability to change behavior. And here's how that happens. So we have certain ideas that are in our head. So Deutsch distinguishes between several levels of memes that cause behavior. First of all, we have the level 1, which is the many ideas that are constantly in your head. And some of them actually instantiate themselves. So on some of them you act upon, others you don't. So that's the first level, the many ideas. I want to have coffee, I want to change the world, I want to have sex, I want to change my investment style. There's a lot of ideas that constantly go through our heads. We also call that thought or whatever. In a nutshell, though, what's important here is that we don't act upon all those ideas, but on some we do. So then we have the level 2, which is the certain ideas that we act upon. The level 3 is the ideas that we act upon that others notice. And the level 4 is the ideas that we act upon that others notice and then also act upon. And then we can keep going. Then there is the level of idea that we acted upon, that others noticed, acted upon, and then made other people act upon. And this is kind of how the cascade of culture starts happening. And in that sense, now let's try to use that concept, that framework, and apply it to a business. So we have an idea, which is Elon Musk starts a business. Elon Musk wants to be in the business of decarbonizing energy. That's an idea. He acts upon that idea. He needs to have other people notice that idea so that actually something happens. People notice that idea. They start acting upon that idea, and so on and so forth. Now, the crucial thing about a culture within a company is the ability to innovate. And I think that goes back to David Deutsch also, which is you can have a culture which is static versus a culture which is dynamic. A static culture is a culture where the rituals and values are all reinforcing the status quo, versus a dynamic culture is a culture that encourages criticism that criticizes existing values and replaces values with better values. That is a critical culture, and a culture that is geared towards change. In a nutshell, so in that sense, I think we can have a culture that is geared towards change, and we can have a culture that is geared towards statism. I think a business that wants to succeed in this day and age, particularly a wealth generation business, needs to have a dynamic culture, a culture that has an incentive structure within its culture for people to acquire new ideas, work with new ideas, replace bad ideas with better ideas, and then replace those ideas with even better ideas. This is, in a nutshell, also what the innovation stack is all about. And Jim McKelvey says innovation is a necessity, not a choice. What he means with that is that we have a culture in the company that started with innovating, let's say a disruptive technology, took something, started building around that something, and by necessity continuously criticizes the status quo and keeps working towards a solution which is much different than the status quo. That is a dynamic culture, or a culture with rapid rate of innovation. Elon Musk has mentioned that also in one of the earnings calls way back, where he said the amount of Tesla, so the competitive advantage, the ability to compete, does not depend on assets. It does not depend on regulatory credits or any of that stuff. It really only depends on the pace of innovation that Tesla can put forward. This is the only thing that matters, and that is now where the rubber meets the road. So we have a few concepts here. We have pace of innovation as competitive advantage. We have culture, the evolution of culture, which is means that make other people notice and then change their behavior. And then we have this concept of criticism, constructive criticism, in a sense that we continuously try to criticize the status quo and replace ideas with better ideas. I think when all these things come together, we have a culture of rapid innovation. This is when companies actually have that ability to differentiate themselves in the marketplace through culture, when they have the ability to criticize existing cultures, existing values, existing memes within the company, acquire new ideas, and then go forward with that. If the rituals and value systems of the organization are such that they try to preserve the status quo, then of course it's very difficult to have any kind of progress in a situation like that. And this is, I think, the key. Now I want to use examples and try to understand this a little bit more, because this is still pretty abstract, at least for me. I mean, I have a sense for what it is, but I think we need to be more precise. Like I said, when we defined our mission statement, precision is the key. I think we need to be a lot more precise at Orange Capital Partners going forward in order deliver against our mission, which is to generate wealth by investing in fundamentally new concepts and engineering practices with large impact. So let's take an example of Tesla. The culture of Tesla in the beginning has been to develop technology, to develop a car. The Model S was the first product that instantiated itself through the culture of Tesla. The Model S was a high-margin luxury car, and therefore also generated high gross margins. The culture of Tesla, therefore, has been, at least in the beginning, to be a high gross margin type company that has an excellence structure in place where you deliver very high-end products to people with a lot of means to purchase those products. The performance matrix of the Model S was a very high-performing car, a green car, so a car that doesn't consume CO2, and a couple of other things that I believe were part of the innovation stack of Tesla in those days. Now, in order to continue, Tesla had to change their culture to a lower cost type company, and that's what they did with the Model 3. So the Model 3 was, the necessity of the Model 3 was to change the cost structure of Tesla, lower the cost, not necessarily the margins, but the cost structure of Tesla had to be lowered so that we can have more volume production. And that, I think, has been the first big change of Tesla. And it's a good example of how the company is able to acquire new culture, that the meme of Tesla, the culture, the behavior which governs the people at Tesla has been changed through the Model 3 in terms of being much more cost conscious, being much more efficiency driven, being much more using Occam's razor in the production, manufacturing, design process, do the minimum necessary to deliver the performance matrix that you're after. This is a different culture, and I think it's the differentiating factor of Tesla with, let's say, a company like Daimler or BMW, because those companies have cultures that are still geared towards high performance, high paying customers, high demanding customers, and all these things, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, though, now you're competing with a company that has a different culture, a culture of bare minimum. And I say bare minimum, still within the constraints of delivering a very, very valuable product. So I'm not saying bare minimum like do cheap things, but you are geared towards optimizing the efficiency of your product versus optimizing the high-end delivery matrices of your product. That's different, and I think that's where Tesla, in my view, has an advantage, that it looks to me that the company's culture is mendable, that the memes within Tesla are such that whenever new ideas come to place, either through necessity or just also inductively inside the company, let's say somebody like Elon Musk could just come up and say, I want to do this, and then people start doing it. I think another great example is how Tesla reacted on Battery Day, and I think, I don't know where this is coming from, but here's I think Battery Day is the biggest event in the history of Tesla, and here's why. Because Battery Day is not just a technological achievement, it's not just a technological roadmap, it's not just a changing of the architecture, the underlying technological architecture of the company. It is also the change of behavior. It is also a manifest of a culture change within Tesla, a culture change away from certain ways of doing business to new ways of doing business. I think Drew Baglino has said it in that one slide. I think the one slide that is, I call it the $100 billion slide, because it's added at least $100 billion in market cap. It is, you want to increase the range by over 50%, you want to decrease the cost by over 50%, and you want to decrease the capital investment per gigawatt hour by over 50%. This is not just a business statement. This is not just a PowerPoint slide. This is a dedication, a commitment towards changing your culture, towards delivering those results. And that is the key of Tesla. Now, why they did that actually is now an open question, particularly since the IPO of QuantumScape. Questions now are coming up. Well, maybe they're doing it as an answer to QuantumScape, or maybe QuantumScape went public as an answer to the Battery Day. I think that maybe in 50 years we will read history books and understand what happened there. But fundamentally, what's really crucial here is that Tesla took it to themselves to change their behavior from inside to deliver a massive, massive improvement in the efficiency, in cost, in performance matrix, any which way you want to look at it. Because if they deliver the kind of battery that they announced at Battery Day, then the cost structure will be lowered. We have a $25,000 car, and with a $25,000 car at the level of Tesla, of course, we're talking about a car that is Tesla quality, Tesla performance, Tesla sexy, Tesla everything. That, first of all, you're killing a couple of flies with one shot. First of all, you're answering the disruption question out of China. Second, you're answering the QuantumScape disruption question. And third, you're expanding your market to 20 million cars per year. And that is why Tesla is a $600 billion company today. So I just want to use those examples to clarify a little bit more what it actually means to be to have a culture of rapid innovation, to have a culture of rapid innovation. It means that you have to be able to change your culture so your behavior within the company can change. And I think Tesla has a culture that allows for that. And the question that David Deutsch brings up in the beginning of Infinity is, for example, well, what does it take to have a culture? Well, how about the change of culture or the change of change? What is the second derivative of this? How do you have to be positioning yourself in your mind, in your organization's chart or whatever you want to call it, how do you have to position yourself to be able to have a changing culture, and how do you make sure your culture doesn't change too fast? This is very important. So what is the information you're actually using to assess if culture has to be adaptive or not? Let me give you an example from trading. Let's say as a hedge fund manager, I could say that daily price information of the stock should make me change my culture and my behavior. And I think that would be terribly wrong, because then I would turn into a day trader, and that's very stressful and not very profitable. And I think the answer is very similar. The approach that we're using at Orange Capital Partners, it's very similar to what Tesla is using, which is you set up a mission statement and then you start delivering against that mission statement. And whenever your behavior is such that maybe you're not clearly stating the mission statement anymore, you're not able to deliver against it, or vice versa, like in our case, maybe the mission statement wasn't precise enough to make sure that we still are comfortable with our goals, then you have to start changing behavior. So for example, with Tesla, it's decarbonizing the energy infrastructure. As long as you work relentlessly towards that goal, I think you are okay with your culture and your memes and your behavior within the company. As soon as that goal is in danger, and for example, that goal could be in danger through the development of the QuantumScape battery, because this is one conjecture that I have, that Tesla needs to be a very, very high market share owners of the electric car industry until the transition is done. They cannot allow others to take over the market, because there is a risk of dilution then. So anyway, if you want to decarbonize energy, you have to be the one driving it, and you have to keep having very high market share. That means that if there is threats, disruptive threats to your market, you have to respond. Tesla did that, and this was a good signal for them to react. In our case, it was a little bit different. We had our old mission statement was to generate wealth by investing in disruptive innovation, and we changed that because the word disruptive has lost its precision. The way we understand disruption, the way we follow disruption, which is very, very orthodox, derived from Clayton Christensen's book, that is not how most people see it. So we felt that a lot of times we've fallen kind of through the cracks with our definition, with our mission statement, and therefore we change it to a more precise mission statement, which is generate wealth by investing in fundamentally new concepts and engineering practices with large impact, which is borrowed from Thomas Kuhn's The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, because that's really where we live. We live in that space where new ideas, new concepts, new engineering practices start hitting the markets and developing new markets and generating wealth. So to summarize, the evolution of culture is the fundamental driving force of wealth generation. As much as it is the fundamental driving force of progress, as much as it is the fundamental driving force of change, of Popperian epistemology, which means that we create new knowledge by replacing better ideas, by replacing ideas with better ideas, by replacing knowledge with better knowledge, by replacing with cultures with better cultures, by creating new problems that are better than the older problems, by creating better products, by creating better processes, by using energy better. Everything that we're striving towards is to replace existing situations with better situations, and that is fundamentally what Thomas Kuhn described in the Structure of Scientific Revolutions. This is fundamentally what Clayton Christensen describes in the Innovator's Dilemma, and this is what our principle stack is meant for. Our principle stack, which is 0 to 1, the innovation stack, the Innovator's Dilemma, and the beginning of infinity. And this is how we believe we have a better chance to deliver against our mission. Thank you.